discussing again a chapter in Pitranomics, and this part is about getting professional help. It's really important that whatever it is you're doing and you need advice, you get someone that's competent and has good judgment and understands your business. And tonight I wanted to bring in my property manager, and I had hoped she could talk about kind of what her important points for investors to know, what kind of value the property manager brings, etc. But she had to leave and her assistant is trying to get on, so hopefully that will happen. So the important thing to remember when trying to invest in real estate is that it's a money-making enterprise. A lot of people get very emotionally involved with their properties. They want it to be, oh my gosh, a certain kind of pretty with the latest thing, but you're trying to maintain a standard that appeals to the widest possible audience of your target demographic, that has the lowest cost of ownership. And if you're interested in growing your business, then you probably need somebody to handle that for you as far as the day-to-day. That's a property manager. If you're trying to grow and add properties as well as deal with the, I won't call it the mundane, but the day-to-day of managing the property, of sending a repairman, of dealing with tenant issues, of staying on top of the legalities and tricks of dealing with tenant issues, that can sometimes be a little difficult. So that's why I recommend a property manager. Nope, it's still there. Okay. The property manager representative, her name is Rachel, is trying to get back in, and I wanted her to share some things. They have a nice presentation. Hey, Rachel, how's it going?
Hi. Okay, so
I think that it's important to remember that business is business, and bring people who are good professionals who can help you advance your business. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, well, I'm going to use my friend that just became a realtor, or I'm going to use my friend that just opened their own property management company, or I'm going to use my friend and then ... And my comment to that is, I think you should use friends if they're competent, if their judgment is consistent with yours, and if they know enough about your business to help you make you successful. If these things do not exist, then involving your friends in your business is a good way to mess up your business and mess up your friendship. Mm-hmm. So let's not do that.
Can I add to that, Julie, where
Sure.
I usually see people go down the slippery slope with that is when they're talking to people who are not in their industry or field, and they're asking them for advice in their industry and field. It's like, you know, my daughter is not a realtor, so why would I be asking her about, should I put something in a contract? So I love what you said, and I think it's really important that you do have that group of people. And I know so many people who run to family and friends and say, well, they said I should do it this way. And I'm like, well, they're not even licensed. So let's talk about that first.
They're not licensed. And I'm going to take that even further, because part of Pitranomics, there's a whole series that I'm going to spend some more time on, is who is in your lifeboat, and are they helping you paddle or are they causing you to sink? And the reason why this is important is if you're trying to get from destination A to destination B, and you're asking the advice of people who aren't even in the race, they aren't even in the water, they don't even know what a boat is, then you're setting yourself up for failure. I struggle with understanding why people do that.
Yes.
Why? So I don't know. I get that you want to ask your friends for advice, but it's like, for example, why would you ask your broke friends what time of money movements you should make? Mm-hmm. And I had an incident. I'm just going to share this real quick, and it's typically me, but it was, I guess about a month ago. It was before Christmas. I was in a store that I shop at a lot, and she was like, well, what kind of gifts would you like for your husband to pick out? And if I've shared this story with y'all, you know, you get to hear it again. And I said, well, you know, this is good, this is good, and this is good. And if he's feeling really generous, he can buy this too, and he can, you know, shop this. Giving him some ideas for what I want from this store. He's shopping from my favorite store. It's a wonderful thing for a husband to do. And then this other woman interjected, and she was like, well, what are you getting? And I told her, and she's like, well, that's not enough. You need to give him this, and you need to give him that, and then you at least need to provide sexual favors, but those weren't the words she used. And I looked at her and I said, you know, you don't hand stuff out like that, like coffee. Those are special. I said, I know how to be married. I've been married 25 years. I was like, you, how many times have you been married? None? Okay, then your advice is not what I'm going to be seeking about my marriage. And it never ceases to amaze me. People with no kids will offer advice about how to raise your kids. People with bad, horrible kids will seek to offer you advice about how to raise your kids. People with no relationship will tell you, and I don't mean like no relationship at the moment, I mean like no relationship ever. No one's ever been in a relationship with them, and they still want to offer advice. So that's my little, I guess, what's the word? Pet peeve right there. Offer advice in your area of expertise, competence, and judgment. Seek advice in others' areas of expertise, competence, and judgment. And with that, I would like to introduce Rachel. Did you ever get your camera working?
I thought, I am so sorry. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but I'm here.
That's okay. So I have a few rental properties. I never tell how many, Rachel. So the company that I use is Blue Atlas Realty, and Rachel has graciously agreed to step in and give a short presentation about the value that property managers bring, and then we'll offer a little feedback about what investors should know, and I will, of course, offer a little bit about my opinion. And this is part of the what professionals can help you accomplish what you want. So, Rachel, I'm going to share my screen and bring up your presentation.
Okay.
As soon as there we go. Hopefully I can make that work. Can everybody see the presentation? Everybody can see it? Okay, Rachel, you just tell me when to advance, and I will do my best to do so.
Okay, so just a little bit about myself and Blue Atlas Realty. We, my background was primarily in multifamily. And I love the scenario that you used, Julie, because I actually had an ore that we bedazzled. And as a regional, I would go to all my properties. And, you know, as a regional, you wear many hats. And one of my jobs was to keep everyone pumped and motivated. So I would go by and visit each property, toting the ore, and letting everyone know that, we all had a job to do at each property, at each community. And the best performing property would get the ore for the month. But I used the same scenario as far as, who you're going to allow on your boat. Who's going to help you row those oars to keep that boat moving in the right direction. You have to be able to recognize when you need to dock that boat and let someone off.
Or just toss them in the water.
Or just toss them in the water and feed them to the sharks. So it was always a lot of fun. Everyone was always pumped and excited, and it brought great camaraderie, a friendly competition. So in single family, coming into this side of it, we don't have the large staff that we did at the on the multifamily side, but there's still we keep each other pumped. Here at Blue Atlas, a lot of exciting things happening, and definitely here to offer any assistance that we can. So we can flip to the next slide, Julie, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Blue Atlas can do for you all. So also, as you mentioned, Julie, some people may lean towards friends or family members, or may decide they want to try to self-manage themselves. So, more power to you if you decide to do that. It would definitely be a learning curve for you, but there's so much that goes into property management that a lot of people don't realize coming in new. So I think that what you're doing, what you're offering, Julie, is definitely beneficial. But you can consider self-managing, but there's so much that a management company can offer. We do, as the slide says, we manage tenants and provide the buffer needed to remain objective. As a self-managed owner, sometimes, given the situation, you could find that you might be a little bit more lenient than you should be with late renters, late payers, someone who you may need to file eviction on, and they come to you with a sob story, and you give them that chance, and before you know it, you're 6 months into the lease without payment. And trust me, it happens.
A lot.
Definitely. Yes. So as a management company, finding good, strong, qualified tenants, that's where it all starts. Now, today, as a matter of fact, this is a really good example. We had someone that applied for a home, and we do national and county searches. Now, the national search is what any property management company would use. If someone is in a new eviction, it won't show up until the eviction has been processed and closed. But when you do the county searches, and we do that, we go that extra mile for the county search, we discovered today that someone had 2 evictions, recent. She was actually in a current eviction and had just come out of an eviction. So with the national search, you would not have caught that. But we do have access and definitely go that extra mile to search the counties to discover this information. This was a huge save up front for the client. Had we not seen that, otherwise, they looked good. She had the income, she had the employment, there was no landlord debt showing up on the national side. So she looked like a great prospective tenant. If we would have allowed her to move in, it looks like someone who's been playing the system, we would have ended up in that same situation. So that was an automatic denial, and definitely a save for that client. So there are a lot of things to consider before, going self-managed or asking the friend or family member to come in and assist you in managing your home. Definitely a lot of benefits there. So,
Rachel, can I offer one more thing about the buffer part?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
If the property manager can take the place of someone in between and use this so-called landlord as the bad guy, well, the landlord says no, or they disagree, or our hands are tied, that gives some negotiating room between the property manager and the tenant, which doesn't exist between the owner and the tenant, because the tenant then thinks that the owner is the last call and they can make any decisions, and they will be relentless in their intention to get their way. Mm-hmm. If they know how to reach you, if they know who you are. So it's always good to just have that, I am not the landlord, I represent the landlord, I am acting on their behalf, and they say no. And even acting as a realtor, I can't tell you how many times a prospective tenant will come and say, well, I want to speak to the owner. I want to know who the owner is. I was like, if they had wanted you to know who they were, they would be talking to you now. That is why they have an advocate. So it's I think that's also an important part that property management puts in place as well. So they don't know who you are. They can't hound you for things, and they will. I've had that happen. So
yes, and I was actually going to go over that in one of the other slides, but you definitely want to take yourself out of the equation for that reason, and also for those late night maintenance emergency calls. That's something that we can definitely take care of for you, and not only that, but it does exactly what Julie said. They want to speak to the owner because they think that they're going to get the ultimate answer. But having a property manager is something that frees up your time. Oh, you're fine. It frees up your time to go out to the golf course, travel a little bit, spend time looking for more investment properties. So there are definitely a lot of benefits that we can assist with. Let's see. Maintaining compliance with housing regulations and state and federal laws. There are a lot of now each city may require different registrations. Those are annual registrations. They'll come out and inspect the properties. And this is something else that we can also assist with, or, any management company. And again, it allows you to focus on new investment properties and furthering your career as an investor.
So the other thing I want to just jump on and say, not only if you have questions about property management, but if you have questions about what it takes to be prepared for a property manager. So make sure you can ask questions on both sides of that. Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
So some of the things that you want to ask when interviewing property managers, we've listed a few things here. You definitely want to discuss rent collections and options, that tenants have. So we do all of our payments online, but we do offer, if anyone wants to pay with a credit card and pay that high credit card fee, they're certainly welcome to, but we prefer that they pay online with their bank account. There's also a Pay Near Me barcode where they can go and do a payment, and it would be like a wire transfer. It goes directly into our account. So sometimes that's more convenient for people, but the majority of our tenants do pay online with the bank account. But these are definitely things that you want to ask. Now, we also provide due diligence services for a fee. And if you choose to use us for a property management company, that fee goes towards your first month's rent. I'm sorry. Now I feel like I'm talking to a tenant. The fee is actually waived if you sign a management agreement with us. So keep that in mind, but we can do inspections on a property. Sometimes a lot of times I'll go out and meet your home inspector. If there's a house that you're considering purchasing, you have a licensed inspector going out to inspect the home. I generally meet them the same day so that I can inspect the property. I can take a look at the area. This gives us a really good idea of the rental rate that we can get for you on the home. We also pull comps for you. So any questions that you have about the area, what other homes are renting for. So that's definitely an option for you as well. And then, do we charge fees during vacancy? Our fees are based on collected rent, so there are no additional fees during vacancy. We don't get paid until we have occupied that home. Now, as far as extra income that you can generate on a property, if you have a duplex that has covered parking, let's say a duplex, a fourplex, And then you get into your smaller apartment communities. If you have covered parking, you can charge extra monthly rent for those. Of course, there's pet rent if you allow pets. If you have laundry machines that you want to manage on your own, that's extra income that you can make. Or if you provide, say, for instance, you have a fourplex that they don't have washer dryers, but there is space for you to install washer dryer connections. We can get bids for you to determine if that's something that you actually want to do, and then you can charge extra rent for that. So definitely ways that you can make extra income, but these are questions that you want to ask when you're interviewing your management companies.
So I do have a question for you, Rachel. In regards to the vacancy, so I had a situation where my tenant, where my client was the seller, and they allowed the tenant to vacate the property a month in advance to be out for the new buyer. In a situation like that, so it was 1 month's rent that wasn't collected. They just, lived off security deposit. Will you still charge them because a lease is in place, or do they not get charged because the tenant is vacating?
So if we had someone who was moving out early, they were still in a lease agreement, but they were moving out early, we would still collect rent. They're still tied to that lease agreement. Now, we also provide...
Well, in this case, the seller let them out, saying, so the seller was closing on the property in July, and she gave them the option to be out before July, which they took, and she did not charge them July's rent.
Okay, well, that would be owner's prerogative if they choose to do so. But as a management company, we would hold them to the lease.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is, if the seller is saying you don't have to pay July, are you guys still charging them for July if they're not paying the seller the rent? Yeah,
I see what you're saying. If we're not collecting, then we're not charging.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was a little confused about your question.
No worries.
But on that subject, just to let you know, we've had a couple of tenants that were relocating due to jobs. They had signed a lease. We do ask that anyone fulfill at least 6 months of their lease agreement before we would consider releasing them from their lease. And we have a 2-month buyout. So we do require that they give the full 30-day notice. They pay the additional 2 months. They forfeit their deposit, and that buys them out of the lease agreement. Now, during the 30 days that they've given us notice, and they are responsible for the 2 months, we are listing the property. We're doing occupied tours of the property to try to get it released as soon as possible. And depending on when that new tenant is scheduled to move in, of course, we can't accept double rent. But we definitely try to get it reoccupied as soon as possible for the client. But we do offer the 2-month buyout as well.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so as far as maintenance service fee or markup, do we profit from maintenance? A lot of management companies will profit from maintenance. Blue Atlas, however, does not charge. We don't make anything off of maintenance. We have general contractors that we call upon to take care of service requests at the homes, and anything that is under $350, Blue Atlas has the right to authorize. If it's anything $350 or above, we'll collect bids and submit them to the client for approval. The bid that you receive from the contractor is what you would pay. We don't mark it up so that we can get a cut of that. What you see is what you get. And it's the client's decision.
One more question for you, Rachel. With that being said, do you keep track of when you've had to go to a property and there is something wrong, but it was because of the tenant's negligence, you guys monitor that and let the owner know so that they can keep track of that?
Absolutely. All service requests like our rent, we strongly encourage all of our tenants to submit everything through the tenant portal. So we have running records of every service request for every property that we manage. If we do find that that there's a cycle happening at a particular home with, say, for instance, clogged drains, and maintenance is going over there, they're pulling out, toys or hair, grease from the garbage disposals, the seep drains. The first time that it's noticed, and the contractors always let us know, and they take pictures. So the first time that it's noticed, the contractor will let us know, and we'll send the tenant a reminder. If this continues, there's a chance that you can be charged for the next occurrence. And second time around, it happens again, and we have several times charged tenants for things of that nature. So yes, we do have running records, and we do charge back.
I would like to take this time to jump in on vermin infestation. If you convey a property to a tenant and it's clean, there are no bed bugs, there are no roaches, there are no rats, and then at some point there is that infestation, I have talked with many tenants who seem to believe that is a landlord's responsibility to do pest control. However, vermin infestation has a lot to do with how you live in the property. So my belief is that is a tenant responsibility, because not every tenant will incur that cost because they're clean. And there was one tenant, this was from years ago, I went over to their house and they were very sweet, and they were like, would you like to have dinner? And in my mind, I was like, absolutely not, because they had food just everywhere and roaches just roamed. And I was sitting there going, why are they in this property? But when they kept complaining about the vermin control, at first I was like, no, just, I don't want to pay for it. I did pay for once. I willingly paid for once. But repeated rat and roach infestation, that is not the condition the house was conveyed in. Mm-hmm. Every tenant has a move-in inventory and condition sheet to sign to say, this is the condition of the house. If there's infestation in the beginning, yes, note that so we can get that addressed. But if it starts being a recurring problem, that's another thing that you really want a property manager that's going to stay on top of. Like, hey, dude, this is dude or dudette. This is not the property problem. This is your problem. We'll send someone to take care of it, but you'll be charged back, and make sure it happens that way.
Mm-hmm. We've had situations like that as well. Now, as far as roaches go, you're absolutely right. If a property is free of roaches when they move in, and then it becomes a problem. And when we have tenants that move in, I will go meet them on move-in day, and we go over tenant responsibility. Pest control is a tenant responsibility. We walk the home and open drawers, open cabinets. They see that there are no roaches. So I tell them, we haven't had a problem here. If shortly after that you've moved in, there becomes an infestation, then we may think that they came in with your boxes. But tenants are responsible for pest control. Now, in the situation with rodents, we've had situations where new buildings are going up, trees are getting cut down, rodents are coming out of the wooded areas, possums, skunks even. So situations like that, we would definitely investigate to see what's going on. especially if it's in a home that we've never had a problem before. And then same thing with roaches. If a tenant is complaining about huge problem with roaches, then we will definitely go over and take a look to find out what's going on. And at that point, Julie, is when we find out that someone is not as clean as they say they are. Because over the phone and through the tenant portal, everything is spotless. We don't leave food out. We don't leave, anything out. We bleach everything, and there's still roaches. We generally find that there's a problem there.
And one of the things, like I was just talking to another friend earlier today, she was speaking about a client, and some people just live in a horrible way, at least from my perspective. And you're wondering, why did bother to buy a nice house if you're going to live in it like, I don't even know the appropriate politically correct term to say, but you're just going to trash it and be dirty in it. I don't understand, but these things happen. And when you have someone living in a property that's yours, what you've done is entrust them with the care of an expensive investment asset. So not only do you want someone that pays, you want someone that takes care of the asset.
And that's another buffer that a property management company offers, because, that could be conflict that you don't want to get yourself involved in as an owner. Let the property manager take care of it for you. Let them go out and do the inspection and find out exactly what's going on. And of course, all this information is being relayed to you. We can give you our suggestions on what to do. But we're the ones that are face to face with the tenant, making them aware of what your final decision is. So definitely takes a lot of stress off of the owners.
Yes. Hey, Rachel, do you want me to advance?
Yes, please.
There we go.
Okay. So a little bit about Blue Atlas and our management fees. We have a 6.5% management fee. Again, it is based on collections. So we're not getting paid until that home is occupied. And then we do charge a leasing fee, which is half of 1 month's rent. No renewal fees. There are a lot of management companies that charge renewal fees, but we are not one of them. So first year is up, we reach out to the tenant. Oh, let me back up. 45 to 60 days before the lease expires, we'll pull comps, see what homes are renting for in the area. We let you know as the client. We give you our suggestions for the new rental rate increase. You give us your feedback, and then we notify the tenant. But there's no charge for that process. Annual inspections, there's a $60 inspection for any additional inspection that's done throughout the year. So generally, at the time of renewal, we are putting our eyes on the homes, just because we want to see how they're taking care of your investment. We want to make sure that if they say they have no pets, there are no pets in the home. We find that a lot. But we definitely want to make sure the lawns are being maintained. When I do a walk around of a house, tenants are responsible for watering the foundation during the spring and summer. So I'll do a walk around. I'll look for stress cracks just to make sure that there's no major movement that we need to let you know about. Taking a look at cleanliness, taking a look at unauthorized pets or unauthorized occupants as well, because that happens. So these are all things that we do at the time of inspection. And then, of course, evictions. This is something else that a lot of clients don't generally like to take care of on their own. So we do have a $200 eviction fee. This is only charged if we have to physically be in court. 9 times out of 10, we don't go to court. We end up, the tenant will end up moving out as soon as they get notification from constable. So it's not often that we actually have to go to court to for the eviction. Any questions there?
No questions?
No questions?
Okay.
Y'all are a great group.
Okay. Next, is there a next page, Rachel?
Let's take a look. There
Oh,
we
yeah.
go. So, of course, there are a lot of management companies out there, but we would definitely love to answer any questions that you have regarding, management company. We would love to be able to assist you with your investments. So if there are any questions that you think of after this meeting, definitely reach out and let us know. You have, after speaking to us, you definitely have the option of talking to other management companies, and just kind of weigh out your options. But I think it's definitely a great idea to have a property manager in place so that a lot of the things that we've, discussed is not something that you would have to stress over. Your time can be well spent looking at other investment properties, and like I said, just enjoying your time, and let us take care of the stress of it for you.
Okay. Hey, Rachel, Shantae Bryant has a raised hand, so please go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, I'm actually one of your clients.
Okay.
And I just want to say, Allison is the person who I've worked with since last, it's like time flying, it's almost over a year or so ago. But she's been extremely helpful, and there was a lot of late nights thinking about certain tasks or things that I needed done, or suggestions, and knowing the state of Texas, where I'm not from Texas, so knowing that you all have a great expertise and good rapport with the surrounding agents that you use and vendors and organizations like the tax office or other type of organizations that we have to report to. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for your service and all the help you've done for me in my journey as a new investor.
Well, thank you. I'll definitely pass that on to Allison. We've certainly enjoyed helping you out and having you as a client. And anything else that we can do, just definitely let us know.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, Rachel, can I throw in some of my few cents about being an investor and working with a property manager?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there are many different kinds of investors. There are some that, I won't call them slumlords, but they definitely cut corners on the quality of product that they provide to the property manager. We'll say it like that. And as a result, they become, that particular house or property is something that the tenant complains a lot about. I like to keep things fairly simple, fairly easy. I'm not trying to wring every last penny, because I know if I can give an easy to manage property, it's an in-demand property, my property manager isn't, bothering me about stuff. Here's an example. I bought a property from another investor. The property looked nice, but there were some things. The air conditioning unit was quite old, and there were repairs and repairs and repairs. His, strategy is, excuse me, is just to keep repairing, don't replace. And I get that. But my strategy is, let's update it, bring it new, so I'm not being bothered about it. The money it takes and the time it takes for my property manager and for me to have to deal with constant attention to one of the major components, like the roof or the air conditioning unit or the water heater or the electrical, anything like that, I would rather have it run more smoothly, know that it's a good product. So if I do get a tenant that's complaining, I don't think it's my product. I'm like, that might be the tenant. So I just think you have to understand what your mindset is. I think you should communicate that to your property manager too. If you're saying, hey, I want to wring every last penny out of every component, have that discussion to see if that's a good match for the property manager that you're interviewing. But if you're saying, hey, I want to maintain a certain standard, I've had numerous conversations with Allison. I interact with Rachel, but I most often interact with Allison, who couldn't be here. She wanted to be here, but she couldn't be here. It's like, hey, if the thing is 15 years old and we've been replacing it and we're running out of parts, then let's just go in there and get a replacement. The tenant's happy. They'll renew, which saves you money on vacancy. And that is, it saves you on your variability of your asset. And that's a positive thing. It's always a positive thing. That said, even with a good, consistent, proactive maintenance approach, you have to plan for the unexpected. There's going to be something that happens that you don't plan for that you have to fix or that you have to address. So don't be upset when something comes and you're like, oh, well, I didn't think I was going to have to pay for that this year. Well, you might have to pay for that this year. And 2021 with the February storms was a prime example of stuff that happens that you have to address.
Yes.
Whether the insurance company covers it or not, it still needs to be addressed. So that's kind of my thing.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. Sometimes replacing an appliance or an AC unit, interior air handler, depending on the age of it, replacing could be better than the long run cost of replacing could be better than the amount of money that you're spending trying to repair after repair after repair. So I totally agree with you. Yes.
Okay. And that's true of your own house as well. So if you take the mindset to keep your own house in good repair, don't keep an air conditioner unit that's meant to last 15 years, 35,
Yes.
or something like that. At some point, things do wear out. And so you have to get something new. In the case of air conditioning units, sometimes they decommission the type of refrigerant that you've been using. So that becomes so expensive, not just to repair it, but to charge it back up. So it makes better sense just to put a new one on and then go from there. And the other thing I want to tell people is, whatever your business is, you need to understand the tax implications of the different expenses and expenditures. So plan for improvements and understand how those will be treated. Understand what is a repair versus an improvement. Have that conversation going on with your CPA so you can optimize what your income looks like from, if this is a passive investment, from your passive investment strategy. And if anybody has any further questions about what I mean by that, please just check with me. And I'll also put, or Rachel, can you text in some good contact information for Blue Atlas, or I will, in the chat, and that way everybody can access that.
Let's see.
The other thing I'd like to add about Blue Atlas is Allison is not just in the property managing business. She's also an investor herself, and a very savvy investor. Rachel, do you also have investment properties? I never...
I do not. And time is just flying by. 2 years ago, I sold my home, and Allison asked me, are you sure you want to sell it, or would you like to just do a remodel and rent it? And I have to say that selling it is a regret that I have. I wish that I would have taken her advice, done a remodel, and rented it, and just, got my foot in the game, because I sold the house. The client did a remodel on it, and we're getting some really nice rent. We found great prospects to go into it. They're taking really good care of the home, and they've been there for the past 2 years.
And that could have been yours, right?
Yes. So I definitely regret it. I think it's a great move for anyone who's looking to invest. I would definitely be doing that in the near future myself, and just go from there. But I think it would have been a great, a great investment.
Yeah, first step. Another thing I want people to realize is in Texas, investing in Texas, it's a landlord-friendly state. Lots of support for landlords. There are other states. Shantae, my lovely friend here, is from California. Man, you can't pry people from their rental property sometime, and you're just stuck with it. I think it's crazy. But this is a good place, comparatively speaking, even during the COVID situation, to be able to deal with non-paying or non-conforming tenants.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I want to add about property management is, even if you're great at managing the maintenance part of it, when it's time to select tenants, when it's time to interact with tenants, it's really important not only to keep to current laws, but be mindful of fair housing restrictions and requirements. And as someone who has 1 or 2 properties, 3 or 4 properties, let's say 10, you don't have the experience with the people who go into it trying to screw you on fair housing. So that is why it's important to have a professional in between that knows how to deal with those things and keeps an objective buffer between you and the tenant when it comes to things like that. And that part I just can't stress enough. It's really important. And if everybody can grab Blue Atlas's information off the chat if you need it, and let's ask if there are any questions.
No questions?
No questions. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody coming on. I hope that you gained something from this. If you do consider buying some rental properties, I hope you'll consider Blue Atlas as a very valuable partner. If you need to get in touch with me, let me know. And I appreciate y'all coming on.